What is happening, Dolphins fans, and welcome to another episode of the Fins Tailgate with your host, El Capitan. I got my co-hosts with me here. I got color commentary in the building, Ali the Persian in the building. We're going to go into a couple of the things circulating as of recent. We'll touch on the OBJ stuff. We've already kind of touched a little bit on it, but we'll talk a little bit about that. And also, Tua Tagovailoa contract talk firing up. Jeremy Fowler on ESPN today said some stuff. We'll play the audio from that. And also, just a real quick touch. The OBJ stuff was broken early by AB and what he has as CTESPN, this organization he's a part of, broken early about the OBJ stuff. And now, today, coming out saying that Tyreek Hill contract extensions and talks with the Dolphins are heating up. And that's something that I told you guys about back in late February. I got the timestamp on it. We'll go into it. It's stuff that we've been talking about off and on all off season. Hit the like button on your way in, guys, and we're going to get right into it.
Turner Yell makes the stop in the secondary for Denver. 1st and 10. The fake. Good block in there, and down it goes. Caught at the 30. This is the dynamic Hill. He's in for 6. Tyreek Hill. Touchdown. What a block.
Take into your hands a plan. Your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be fucking sour. Take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder. Work until you're prouder. And all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off, it's these fucking clowns who were all taught they deserve an ounce. It's only worth it if you work for it.
What is happening, everybody? Again, welcome to another episode of the Fins Tailgate. Ali and Color here with me tonight.
What's up?
Hit the like button on the way in. Make sure you guys are getting in here. Shout out to everybody who got in here early. John Featherland, the homie, letting everyone know to hit the like button. Fins up or go Fins, or Fins go. The hashtag has changed, ladies and gentlemen. The Dolphins on social media hashtag Fins up is no longer. It is now Fins go, and that's because of the Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville that is being built all over America. I think they've got like 8 of them now. One in Mexico, a couple. Anyhow, they own the rights to Fins up. So the Dolphins didn't fight it and just went to Fins go, which I really wish they would have talked to us at the year, because we could have worked out the Fins tailgate for them. And I thought that would have been perfect. Fins tail. We're still available. You guys can reach out to us. Go to the website. There's a way to get in contact with us, Dolphins. We're willing to negotiate heavily with that chat. Shout out to Aquavision in the crib. What's up, Aquavision? Dolphineer in the hood. What it is, what it do. Also, Michael K, family member of the show. Hit the like button. Become a member, everybody. Joe Wrist in the building. What's up? Tua Tuesdays, what's good? Hit the like button. Jamie in here. What's up, Jamie? Our guy Chad cruising through. What's up, Chad? Lou, aka the Rabid Dolphin. I'll see if I can get you the StreamYard, Lou, if you want to come up and say a couple things. Zach Man up in here as well. And then Andre's also in here. Hit the like button, everybody. What were you going to say, Ali?
Oh, real quick, Ali, I was just going to say, it might go over people's heads, and people might not get the joke, but Peduncle Power is still way better than Fins Go. I'm just going to put that out there. Go ahead, Ali.
It's okay. But I was going to... Important reminder, and maybe you are. I didn't mean to take your thunder if you're already going to do it, El Cap, but happy Cinco de Mayo. Let's not forget about that.
Well, in the Latin community, with my kids being half Latino and my wife being 100% Latino, we did terrible celebrating Cinco de Mayo because, Sundays be just Sunday, dog. I'm not, what do you want from us?
It's all right, El Cap. I drank enough Modelo for everybody in the chat and you last night.
Go.
So that for a fact. So
yeah, I do. What's up, Mountie? Daniel Berry Sports. Hit the like button, everybody coming in. If you guys are watching on X, come over to YouTube, get in on the chat, and hit the like button on your way in, please. So, real quick before we delve into the Tua stuff and the whatchamacallit, the Tyreek Hill contract stuff. Let's just get the OBJ stuff out of the way. I feel very good about OBJ coming to the team. There was a lot of talk about it. Really ramping up. It made the full news cycle. Everybody and their mother talked about it right before draft. Draft came and went. Dolphins added 2 wide receivers in the later rounds. One they really, really love in Malik Washington. The other, Taj, it's Taj. Him too, they have high hopes for. But Dolphins pulled a trigger. They had plenty of money sitting in the bank. I want to say they were right around $8 million before signing any of their drafted guys. After signing their drafted guys, I think they had about $3 million, a little over $3 million left over. And they went ahead and they also get another $20 million at post June 1st, $21 million. So they were somewhere around 24 million, right? Getting OBJ, I want to say contracts up to $8 million, $5 million incentives, $3 million guaranteed for a wide receiver 3 who you're not going to ask a whole bunch from, but you are going to hopefully be in a situation where if Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle are not on the field, he's going to be a guy that's going to demand respect. And if you're not going to respect him, he's going to make you pay. And then on the flip side of that, if the 3 of them are on the field, it gives the defense a lot to deal with. I mean, pretty much you're going to have those 3 guys on the field along with the speed we have in the running back room, not to mention Jalen Wright, but just Achane and Mostert. If I'm a defensive coordinator and the Dolphins are trying to spread me out with speed, I'm just going to go man-to-man coverage and dial up a blitz and pray, because that's really the best thing you can do. Because if you think you're going to go into zone and just let all these different targets be out there, and Tua Tagovailoa is not going to be able to find the spots in the zone that he can expose from you with the leverage type of zone you are in, you're going to lose all day. So it's the offense taking another step by adding this weapon of OBJ along with Wright in the backfield. I think is going to be very important at certain points in the team as far as the speed and the depth in the running back room goes. I think it's just putting another instance where the Miami Dolphins offense is dictating the pace of the game and what the defense can or cannot do with their personnel alone. We all know Tua Tagovailoa's quick release and everything like that is awesome. Dolphins, I mean, listen, a lot of us felt certain kind of way about the interior of the offensive line, but Miami Dolphins feel really good about it because they didn't add anybody, and then until free agent, you know what I'm saying, or a undrafted free agency. Now that doesn't mean they might not still add somebody after post June 1st, when the next wave of free agents, or after the 53-man roster cuts, when people get lopped off with some of these teams that drafted interior guys or whatever, there might be some big names to hit out there. But what do you think, Ali, about the OBJ addition?
All right. Well, this is what I think. I think that there's a large part of the media and some of the community, not everyone, but some of the community, that I think that they're kind of confused by the move. They are thinking because it's OBJ that automatically that we expect him to come in and get 1,000 yards or whatever. Now, that's not what we're expecting. This is a good move because it allows you to still have in my opinion, a high number 2, maybe borderline number 1, play as a third wide receiver role. I expect him to find the open areas when they're doubling up Tyreek or Waddle. When one of the receivers go down, if that happens like it did last season, don't worry. We have Waddle and we have OBJ, or we have OBJ and we have Tyreek still. You know what I mean? The reality is I expect him to have about 600 to 700 yards and maybe 6 touchdowns. That's where I'm at with it. And I'm perfectly cool. $3 million makes complete sense, and it's incentive based. So if he does go all out in whatever reason, has over 1,000 yards along with Tyreek and Waddle, it's not like it hasn't been done before. Shout out to what is it called? Nightcap with Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco, right? They even mentioned it happened to the Cardinals back in 2008. They had 3 receivers with over 1,000 yards. It's not like it hasn't been done before, right? But I'm not saying that's not my expectation.
I think one of those years when it was the greatest show on turf, they had 3 wide receivers go over 1,000 too.
Possibly. I can't remember. Don't quote. I don't know specifically on that stat, but I know.
And it could very well be the same quarterback that did it. If you're talking about that,
that is true. It was the same quarterback. That is kind of funny. You're right. That definitely true. So, but I'm not even expecting that. I'm expecting around 600 to 700 yards, 6 touchdowns. The guy get the open area, make the catch, get us the first down on 3rd downs, be a red zone target. And the money makes complete sense. God, the base salary is less than what we're paying our kicker. Speaking of which, there's a kicker right now in the UFL that I would sign and save money and drop Sanders right now. Who kicked what?
You're not the only person I hear say this. Go get this guy. Listen, bring him in. But don't cut Sandman just yet, all right? Everybody needs to just chill out with always trying to tweak every little thing to make it that much better. You could bring this guy in. He could crush it in the preseason. He gets out there. Next thing you know, he's not showing up in the big moments. Because Sandman, although I don't think any of us is like, oh, he's going to boot it 58 yards. I'm not feeling it. But I'll tell you what, from 48 to 55 with the game on the line, the son of a bitch has got ice water in his veins. And that's all I've needed from him up to this point. Now, we've had some holding issues. As long as that ain't the issue, I'm good with Sandy.
I hear you. I was really just making the point that the kicker's making more money than his base salary. That's all I was trying to make the point.
It's true. He's making good bread.
So for me, the money makes sense. What his ability and what he can do for this offense makes sense. And he's exactly what I wanted. Somebody that the opposing defenses still fear, but I don't have to worry about him taking, touches over someone else, which that shouldn't really matter as long as we're winning. I don't really care who gets the ball, to be honest, as long as we're winning.
And let me follow all that up with a real world example on one play. The play that ended the Buffalo game, the interception. Do you think that safety hawks down on that receiver on that play if there is a guy like Odell running around the secondary too? That guy would have been that guy would have been a half step later. That would have never been an interception, just simply because Odell would have been on the field. That's just, I'm giving a real world example of where it could affect things. It's simply as I've always laid things out, and you all have to ask yourselves this question, whether it's, whether the value's there. But we're, like Ali said, you're looking at about 6 extra touchdowns on the season overall for our offense. That is literally what we're paying $3 million for. So you have to ask yourself, if somebody said, hey, you're the owner of a team or general manager, here, you want 6 extra touchdowns for $3 million? Personally, for me to answer that question, I would pay $3 million for 6 extra touchdowns all day long.
And to be honest, that's just the minimum. If he does better, then it looks even better. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
That's all.
Right. But if you just look at it strictly as buying touchdowns, it's worth it. I mean, especially given how our season turned out last year, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, look, it might not even come down to increased in touchdowns, let's just say. It will, but I'm just saying, here's the minimum amount it can affect it. is we know there's going to be 2 games without Waddle, 2 games without Tyreek. You know, God forbid those 2 games overlap each other and we don't have either of them. Well, at least we got
But
somebody
Cat, real quick, even if it was 3 more touchdowns, right? Let me ask you this: when that game ended against Buffalo, were you thinking to yourself, "Damn, I'd give $1 million for a touchdown on that play"?
Yeah, true that.
I like DTA's comment right here. 6 extra touchdowns would have literally turned some of our losses into wins. That's a fact.
And yeah, that's really what we're hoping for, is that this OBJ signing is going to
wins above replacement.
This OBJ signing is going to affect the win-loss column. That's what you're hoping for the most. Lou, what's happening, bud? What do you think about the OBJ signing in a quick, short kind of ordeal? Because we're going to be getting to the Tua and Tyreek contract stuff.
Hey, what's good, fellas? For me, I would just say real quick, I looked at his numbers last year with Baltimore, 35 catches for a little bit over 500 yards. I'm looking to add maybe 15 to 20 catches on top of that. Let's call it 15 to make it easy. If Odell gets you 50 catches, let's say about 700 yards, I think from a wide receiver 3 perspective, I think this offense would be beneficial, right? Like, listen, at the end of the day, this is no shot at Lamar Jackson, but I think for the people that might, let's just call it what it is, I think Tua is a better passer than Lamar Jackson. Not saying he's better. I'm talking about from a passing standpoint, and I just think Odell, with what this offense brings, the attention to Tyreek Hill, I think a lot of underneath stuff will be there for Odell. And one thing about Odell, right, like, he's not afraid to go up the middle and make catches. And we know how McDaniel, we know how Tua loves the middle of the field in this offense. I think Odell will benefit off that. Again, when I first heard the news, I wasn't blown away. But the more and more that I hear about it and start thinking about it for $3 million, I think it was a good move.
Can't beat that, buddy.
The logic
is
really sound, Lewis. You know what I mean? The logic is really sound.
And you know what else too, real quick, is
go ahead.
We know that Odell isn't afraid to lay out for some too with his lanky ass.
Absolutely.
And for those balls that Tua in distress, it's hitting the 3.5 second mark and heaves one out there. Odell can use his athleticism to get within reach and lay out for it. And I'm telling you, it's plays like that when the blitz comes and Tua has to step outside the pocket and lay one out up for a hope and a prayer, and your wide receiver answers it for you. Not only is it big plays, big yards, and hopefully scores, but it demoralizes the shit out of the opponent. It kills them offensively and defensively. They're like, what do you do now? You called the right play. You pulled the stunt move. You brought the blitz. They would have got home. Tua got a half a second and heaved one up for the gods. And look at what happened. And now that'll break a motherfucker's spirit.
I just want to make one comment before color goes real quick. And Joe Rist, actually, shout out to you, because I was thinking the same thing. He put it in the chat. I think bringing in an OBJ adds more versatility to the receiving room that allows a whole nother layer of plays for Mike McDaniel. I sometimes, we've been talking about this since Mike McDaniel was hired, that, he has a playbook, but then there's this extended playbook that he hasn't tapped into yet because of limitations of the wide receiver room. After the first 2 guys, you don't really have anybody that's at that level when it comes to speed, for example. Right now you have a guy that's coming in. He has the speed, he has the abilities, he's the sure hands receiver. I think it's gonna bring in a whole nother layer of plays. And as the media has already reported and Barry Jackson reported, Mike McDaniel, really made this guy feel welcome and say, hey, I want you here. You could be beneficial to our offense. That's telling me they're going to create plays strictly for him. He's going to get the ball, and I think he is going to perform more, even though he may not get 100 targets, but I think he's going to perform at a higher level than he did with Baltimore, and that's my opinion. Go ahead, Colin.
So everybody knows how I talk about wide receivers, what I think is important, what I think makes a great wide receiver. And look, if you're talking about a guy like, let's strictly put aside will to win and assume that he's here to play, that he's here to give it 100%, right? You're talking about a receiver that fundamentally hits all of the marks for me. I mean, especially with how much I preach about eyes on the football being the most important thing to being, to your hands. And it's one thing, I mean, yeah, that'll make you a possession receiver, you know what I mean? But to be able to do that athletically in the positions that he's, found himself in, as I exemplify right here.
Nice. Way to call upon it, Color. I was
This
just
is
getting ready to say, no one's going to tell me his hand-eye coordination
right.
ain't on point with a catch like that.
And
That's
here's
a guy
the thing.
who's looking at the ball no matter what.
Right. And here's the thing, as much as I've preached that and tried to show examples, and stuff like that, look at this. If y'all can see my mouse cursor, here's his eyes right here. Okay, his helmet's all kind of shifted around because he's stretched out, but here's his eyes right here. Look at this. I can trace a direct line right to the football. There was no way that ball was touching the ground, given the effectiveness of today's receiving gloves. His hand's already touching it. His eyes are squarely on it. There's no way this ball's touching the ground.
Yeah.
If I never knew about this play and somebody showed me this shot, I would 100% predict that he caught this ball.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, that's what we're adding for $3 million. I mean, yeah. If the will to win and the will to play and and perform like that is there, then you could argue we got a steal.
And Q, shout out to Q and everybody else that's in chat. Ronnie, CCRR, Raf, I see everybody. JR Black, hit the like button, everybody. Please get the likes up. Helps the algorithm. We need help with the algorithm. OBJ also commands respects from defense. No longer Hill and Waddle is back alone. Yeah. Again, if not for nothing, just in the minimum amount, when one is not on the field and OBJ is in their place, the drop off, there is still a drop off. Let's call it for what it is, but it's not significant, right? And in the other aspect, when the three of them are on the field, what are you going to do as a defense? You almost, if you have them three on the field and then you take Achane and flex him out wide and you're going 4 wide with speed and movement like that, the only thing a defense really can do, I mean, not only, it'll all depend on their personnel, but a lot of defenses are going to go, okay, we're going to play off-man coverage on here, try to keep everything underneath, and probably send a blitzer. Wherever that's at, doesn't matter. Now, that could work, but it also could spell that, hey, that leaves somebody unprotected with help over top. It's going to. There's only so much help you can ask for over top. And if Tua finds that guy that doesn't have the overhelp top, they're going to lose in a one-on-one setting. And if Tua is able to get that second to throw it, you're in trouble. It's not going to it puts a lot of pressure on defenses, for the easy way to say it. Let's go ahead and move on to the topic at hand. Hit the like button again, everybody. So Tua Tagovailoa contract. It's starting to heat up. The Jeremy Fowler, who said this, I'm going to play just the audio. Let me go ahead and share the screen real quick, and then I'll flip it back. Came out and essentially said contract negotiations between the Dolphins have officially begun. I gotta say that I think it's begun for a while now. I don't know why it's only officially begun. Maybe it's just heating up, and there has been some numbers being thrown around. Let me know in chat if you guys can hear this audio.
What can you tell us about Tua? Well, Matt, I'm told the negotiations have begun in earnest.
You guys hear it?
Have at least gotten the ball rolling. Typically what happens.
Yeah, we hear.
The player counters, and then they go from there and see if they can find a sweet spot. So the next 3 months will be crucial. My sense is this has not graduated to something that's imminent. But the Dolphins are pretty committed to this. Their actions this offseason say that they're going to pay him. They've scaled back a lot of the big money contracts, cutting players like Xavier Howard. So they want to do this. They wanted to prove that he could have a fully healthy season and produce. He did that, 4,600 plus yards, 11 wins. So this could be the path of least resistance among all these quarterbacks that could sign deals around the league.
So we do know that, I mean, look, quarterbacks ain't cheap. Everybody know this. They make the buku bucks, and manipulating your cap and your team overall is going to dictate to what you're paying your quarterback or what you're not paying them, right? So a lot of teams who have found themselves in success typically comes in that first 5 years when the money is still the first 5 years, sometimes in the sixth year, because they've signed into a contract and the money really hasn't put a hurting on you financially. Now, I think, God, dude, what is it? There's only just a handful of quarterbacks that were getting paid extensions and on that extension that have won the Super Bowl. I know Peyton Manning's won. I know Tom Brady's won. I think Drew Brees did it when he was no, he didn't. Drew Brees was on a team friendly deal when they were making like top 5 money. It's really hard. So when we see this number that has been kind of thrown around here for Tua Tagovailoa, one has been thrown around a little bit. It talks about $220 million for a 4-year extension. Now, I want to, before we delve into what that may look like fiscally, how do you feel about that number? And let's go around the room. I'm going to start with Color. Color, how do you feel about $220 million for 4 years? We'll break down the guarantees and what we can think about it. But what do you think about that number on its face? $220 million
on its face, no guarantees. I mean, I would probably even be comfortable with that. You know what I mean? Because even that would be something that can be that doesn't hamstring us too deeply. You know. Even putting aside the talk about guarantees and all that, which we'll all get into, I'd say on its face, no guarantees, nothing like that.
Yeah, not breaking down details. Just
$220
million for 4 years.
I think that he's earned. I wouldn't do it this year. That's a different discussion, but I think he's earned that.
All right, I like where
that is his value. You know what I mean?
Ali, how about you? $220 million for 4 years more of Tua Tagovailoa.
Do it. Actually, I disagree with Color. Do it this year. The longer you wait, the more expensive it gets. It may be $220 now. By the time, if he plays by the end of this season, it'll be $250 by next summer, guaranteed.
Ooh, I like Ali's comment. Lou, aka the Rabbit Dolphin, aka Captain Save-A-Ho. What do you think?
Man, well, Tua's not worth $220 million. I mean, and I'm a Tua fan, but he's not worth 220. So I know we're going to get into what maybe the guarantee number would be off the 220. I'm more interested in talking about that. But just to use Color's word, on the face value of 220, Tua Tagovailoa, in my opinion, is not worth that. So just is what it is.
So kept at a face value, right? $220 million is $55 million a year, right? Now that's a 4-year extension. Right now, Tua is making $23 million this year. Just over $23 million. That
I'm
would
surprised to find myself as the only yes here. Wow.
I said yes, Color. What are you talking? So did
right,
Ali.
right,
I think Ali said sign it now.
Yeah, I said.
I meant the on its face, $220 million.
Oh yeah. To me, and I'll give my take real quick. To me,
yeah,
$220 million 4-year extension at $55 million a year. If it was, say what Ali said, say that wasn't the case. Say the Dolphins waited until the end of his 5th year and then signed him to that. That would mean he was getting $55 million a year. That's not the guarantees, but that's just the contract number. Even then, I believe with the inflation at the position, that would be a pretty relative number, right? We'll just say the success that he has at quarterback position is equal to what he had in 2023. It's a first round out, all that stuff, and the Dolphins are still going to move forward with him, and they are going to hamstring or handcuff themselves or marry, however you want to take it personally. They're going to pay him $55 million a year, and I would say that is probably market value for any quarterback.
Right, and I think but see, for me, even this year, again, I'm everybody knows I don't want to do a deal this year, so it's kind of a moot point. But even this year, what I was, 3 months ago, I was well under $55 million a year. We've they've made the inflation numbers public for this year. And that's changed everything. I mean, I really think there's the inflation number. It's not so much that it was enough to convince me that 55 million is cheap now. It was that it's consistently now for like the 5th season in a row going up by a certain percentage. So I would expect that money to be available next year and the year after that and the year after that. So it's not so much that this year's inflation number made the difference for me. It's that it showed once again for a consecutive year that the number is a consistent high percentage going up. So 55 million for a quarterback per year don't scare me anymore.
Yeah, the other thing is you got to think about, if we wait till the end of this season, there are teams that you may not think need a quarterback now, but are going to start looking at the fact that they need a quarterback, a la the Raiders, a la possibly Arizona. Who knows what they do on their end, right? A la even Tampa.
Remember too,
he signed Baker Mayfield. I still don't think he's the answer. And Seattle, even though they got what's his name for 3 years, I still don't think Geno Smith is the answer there.
Well, they got Tua's brother there too in Seattle. Don't forget.
So that's what I'm saying. That
I'll say this, Ali.
More expensive. Not only do you have the inflation, you're going to have the competition. That's why you got to get it done now. Go ahead.
So I would say this, Ali. Quarterback draft coming out in 2024 is not going to be like it was this year. There ain't going to be 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 13 picks of the draft next year. It's not going to happen. There will be maybe 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round next year, how it currently sits. Now, that's always changing with teams that are needy of quarterback, guys who play and ball out this year. But right now, if the draft was happening today, probably only 3 are going in the first round. Now, that could change, but it's by all measures, it's not as healthy of a quarterback market in 2023 or 2024 as it was in 2023. Ali, I know you got something to say on that.
Well, that's why I'm saying the competition is going to be more stiff, because there's less quarterbacks in the draft, so they can't just pick up their cheaper option, right? So they're going to have they're going to have to compete. The Raiders, if you think Gardner Minshew and what's his name, Colin O'Donnell or whatever his name is the answer, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. He's not the answer. Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dolphins don't sign Tua. Raiders are one of the top teams for his services on free agency.
A hot take. I don't care if Marvin Harrison Jr. is catching balls from Kyle or by Murray this year. I'm telling you, I don't think Murray is the answer. And I think after they see that it didn't turn out the way that they think, they will start flipping the script and start looking for a quarterback.
And let's be real. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to be the consistent scientist here. It's Arizona. Tua can throw moon bombs in Arizona just like Kyler Murray or anybody else.
Kyler Murray has Arizona over a fucking barrel. I want to say it's like 75+ million in guarantees that they will have to pay him these next 2 years. They are fucked.
They want to get out of it any way they can. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Arizona will be with Kyler for the next 2 years.
I'm sorry, Lewis. I meant to relate it to Vegas, because Vegas is kind of dry, thin air too. You know what I mean?
People can throw moon bombs. That's not going to matter. Yeah, that's not going to matter anyway. Listen, Tua's going to be here. So to talk about what if he was a Raider or if
I think Ali was talking about like if things changed, whatever down the road.
Talking about marketing and what the quarterback market will.
What's going on with the market?
What the market will look like this time next year.
Oh, absolutely. There's too much smoke, and when there's smoke, there's fire. Tua's going to get this contract. So I think for me, I'm talking more about the guaranteed money. And unless Cap, you don't want to move on. But I think people get enamored when they hear this $220 million. We all know this is a business. And the business side of it is what you got to pay. Cap, you just talked about it over the next 2 years with Kyler Murray, still 75+ million. And he's had that contract, for like 3 years? And they still own him. See,
and he's hardly played a snap.
Bro, they really thought that they were signing him early and getting out in front of all of it. And because of his injuries and stuff, they got screwed.
Yeah, they got screwed. So let me ask you gentlemen this. Let's say that contract is spot on. 4 years, $220 million. What does the
I'm going to do the math. I'm going to do the math for you, Lou, because I know where you're going. Perfect. We're going to break down that. But before we get to guarantees, right, let's look at it all still at face value. Tua, $23 million in year 5, and then his 4-year extension at $220 million puts him at $252 million over 5 years. That $252 million over 5 years means now his contract is $50.4 million a year. Now, what would I tell you if I'm going to sign Tua Tagovailoa for 5 years for $50.5 million a year?
One last thing I want to say about that. It's the whole reason that I don't think it's pertinent to rush into the signing this year, because all of what I said about not being concerned about $55 million a year, all of that applies to the same as if he balls out, gets us to the Super Bowl, and commands $65 million a year next year. I still feel the same way. So I'm not worried about taking a risk and making him play on the 5th year this year, for the same reason that I'm not worried if they decide to pay him this year. You know what I mean? Like you said, the $50 million a year. Yeah, well, at this point, it's their decision, and I'm not sore either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but still, even with that scenario, Color, let's say the contract does happen at $50 million, right? And then let's say
he balls out,
and let's say he balls out and we win the Super Bowl. I still love paying Tua $50 million instead of that 65.
Oh yeah,
you see what
absolutely,
I'm saying?
Absolutely, because then it allows because then it gives us a better opportunity to continue that train. Absolutely.
So El Cap, let me ask you this question real quick. So you said that with his money that he's making in the 5th year option and what he get extended to, equates to how many million per year? Is it like 50 million?
With the money he's guaranteed in 2024 plus 220 million, that 5-year sample size, he's making 50.4 million each year.
All right.
Over this year's 23 will be looped,
and it comes out to a total of
5-year contract.
It comes out to a total of 252 million. That doesn't talk about the guarantees on the extension or nothing like that. We're going to do that exercise next.
Okay. I'm going to. All right. If we're doing the guarantee exercise next, I have what I think he's going to get guaranteed. I'll wait till you're ready for that conversation.
Okay. Well,
we'll I think we're almost there, ain't we?
We're very close to that now, so we'll go ahead and move to that direction. If it's $220 million over 4 years, what was what's his name? Justin Herbert's guarantee? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
$218 million.
That was his total. I thought his guarantee was less.
No, that was his guarantee. Herbert got 218, and I believe Joe Burrow got like 219, something like that. Guaranteed.
Right.
Both of them gentlemen got over $200+ million.
Herbert's only guaranteed $133.7 million at signing.
That's at signing.
Yeah, you're right.
How much is his total guarantees? I thought it was $185 million was his total guarantees.
No,
Herbert received $218 million in guarantees, so he is right.
Yeah.
He's right.
Okay. And Burrow got 219. Now the two guys, Lamar Jackson, I believe, got 191 fully guaranteed,
roughly,
and I believe Jalen Hurts got like 183 something guaranteed.
Right. So you're like talking about a range, a median anywhere between like 175 to 220.
I would say more than that. That's too. I think to me, the magical number is 190 million guaranteed. That's the magical number.
That's about
out of that $220 million extension, 190 of it in guarantees over those next 4 years.
So
That's the magical number.
So here's where I'm at, right? And this is based on history of all these big contracts that Chris Greer actually signs, right? All of them. Tyreek's contract, Ramsey's contract, Chubb's contract. 3 years and I have an out. So if it's 50 million, if you're looking at 55 million, right? I'm at what? Where's my calculator here? So 55 over 3 years, 165, 170 million guaranteed. That's where I think where Chris Greer is at. And I think that this is the question, that what's going to delay the deal with Tua, is that right there. Because of the history, you go back and look at all the big deals he signed, it's 3 years and out.
Okay. So real quick, before we get started on this, so I'm caught up to speed with, factual knowledge. Lewis, Ali, Cap, the 100, let's say it's 190 million. I know that hits our cap. It's part of the contract and all that. But where the money, when they write that check for $190 million, because ultimately, what's the difference, right? Than spreading it over time. That bank account, which bank account is that check drawn on? Is that a personal Stephen Ross bank account?
That's in gold bullion.
I mean, I know it's not personal, but you know what I mean. Like, is it Stephen Ross writing that check?
It's Stephen Ross handing over gold bullion from his Saudi Arabian bank account.
Right. Okay, so what I'm saying is basically that's at which point the owner of the organization, the owner of the toy, has made his decision clear and is willing to put his dollars onto it. That leaves us with $60 million to pay Tua as a quarterback. Correct?
Absolutely, and that's where I was getting at, Color. I think, again, if rumor or if memory serves me correctly, right? I think that's what they did with Lamar. I think Lamar made like 80+ million this year, right? Because the signing bonus. Let's go to cap scenario, because that's where I'm at, between 180 to 190. But let's play the 190, right? If they give Tua 130 of that at signing, right? As soon as he signs, listen, we're going to cut you the check of 130 million. Really, you got him for this year at 23 on the 5th-year option, and then you'll have the next 3 years or the next 2 years of like $30 million, right? Because you'll owe him 60 left out of that guarantee. If you give him 190, you give him 130 at signing. Right. Now you only have 60 million left on that guarantee. You're essentially now the contract can say what they want, but essentially Tua's only guaranteed to be here the next 3 years.
Supplemental question.
You'll have an out. You'll have an out in
We're real quick. Supplemental question.
2 years after that, you'll have an out.
Real quick. A year, you don't.
You'll carry dead cap money of
that's what I'm
potentially $40 to $50 million a year. He's gone. But if you draft a quarterback, that money offsets itself.
I was just about to ask that. Hold on. Supplemental question, and I was just about to along those lines. If let's say the day after we cut that $130 million check, right? That money's paid, right? Even if it is part of the contract, it's still paid. So what I mean is, if we paid him that money, I'm not saying we would do this. I'm trying to create a hypothetical to understand the rules. If we were to pay him that 130 million and then cut him outright the next day, is that 130 million part of our dead cap?
Not necessarily. No.
Yes, it's just spread. It doesn't hit you all in the 1 year.
Yeah,
it's spread out over 5 years.
But it is part of it, even if it comes out of Ross's pocket.
Wait. I'm sorry.
When you give someone a signing guarantee of whatever amount of money, that money that you're signed guaranteeing, you are now dictating it's like a positive credit. Okay, so now if Tua got a 4-year extension, and now that means over this year and the next 4 years, that's a 5-year sample size, they can take that 130 million that they gave to him up front and spread it out how they deem necessary over 5 years. Okay. Now, then that hits your cap. That means he could make $1 million against your cap this year. But that then means now you have $129 million you need to account for over 4 more years. That's what dead cap and guaranteed money up front means. A lot of teams do this. A lot of teams do this because it puts them in a situation where at some later date they can write an extension. And we're going to get into this because this is going to go into this is all going to go into Tyreek Hill's contract. That's our next agenda situation. So we're going to talk about all these scenarios with Tua's, because it's going to really show you what kind of scenarios it applies to with a guy we're already paying big money. So we'll say $190 million is guaranteed. Now, are we saying that's in all guarantees, or is that 4 years, the 4 years out of the 220 and guaranteed 190? 4 years, the 4 years is 190 million?
Yeah, the 4 years cap would be 190. That's what I only look at the guaranteed money. You
should only look at the guaranteed money.
Exactly. So
that means
190 over 4 years.
With the $23 million Tua is owed in fully guaranteed money for this season, plus the 190 he would get for the next 4 years. That means the Dolphins, in a 5-year sample size, will owe Tua $213 million. That means Tua Tagovailoa, and get this, and this is a palatable number, for the next 5 years, that means 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, into 2028. The 2028 season is purchased under contract. Tua will be getting $42.6 million a year. Are you friggin' kidding?
Sign me up all day. Sign me up all day and twice on Sunday.
That is money that in 2026 and 2027, Tua is probably in somewhere around the 15th to 14th. Yeah. And come by the end of his contract, if you're playing him in 2027, 2028, he's in the 20s.
Absolutely. I listen, I just want whatever the contract is, I want it to be a lot of front loading, because I can be a Tua fan and I can come out here and defend Tua all I want, but I also want an out on Tua too. I want to know that I'm not looking till 2028 of Tua being screwed. I want to look at a scenario where in 2026, and again, Cap, I know there's dead cap, but in 2026, if it's not working out, we can move off of Tua. In 2027, we can move off of Tua. That's what I'm looking for.
If you're
Whatever
do that, Lewis, if you're going to actually move off of Tua in 2026, right around that range, maybe 27, possibly, that would be the perfect time, because that's when I think there's going to be a huge amount of quarterbacks coming out.
1,000%.
And one of the big ones, to be honest. So,
yeah, bro, whatever the contract is, we need to front load the hell out of it.
I'm up in front of it. I do agree with that.
So, Tua, looking at a $250 million he could potentially get over the next 5 years, will account for $213 million or whatever it was against in guarantees. Dolphins paying an average of $42.6 million each of the next 5 years for him, making to where again, we talked about the most he could make is $50 million a year. You could front load, well, not necessarily front load, but you could give him, say, $150 million up front, right? And then manipulate that over the next 4 years, and I would say the Dolphins will probably give him $20 million in guarantees up front, and then count against the cap next year, probably another 23, and then it'll start being somewhere where it's like 58, 57, and stuff like that.
Okay, so
in which case the cap is going up every single year, so you're going to find yourself in a scenario where when you signed him 3 years down the line, the cap went up enough to in millions that you're paying for his contract that year entirely in up cap from the time you started paying him to now. The cap has gone up $42 million in 5 years, and that's how much you're paying him per year. Right. You're essentially, have the it's something they can manipulate.
Right. So real quick before we move on to Tyreek, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, because obviously the chat's heating up about, whether this should even happen or not, and who said what in the past. Do you think that Tua takes that deal? I mean, if we're hearing about these are the kind of numbers of the offer, that's obviously the first initial thing. Nobody signs the first initial thing. If you do, you're stupid. You know what I mean? Like, we all know that. You know what I mean? So the question then becomes, given the
I don't
scenario
think
we've all laid out, does Tua agree to that, or does he push back on that?
I don't think these are the first initial conversations. I think
No.
I think
Okay,
Jeremy
but as
Fowler said
reported, this is now the talks have
right.
just started, which you and I can agree is complete bullshit. You know what I mean? But you know,
Maybe they
Well,
just
I think
restarted.
like
I think
in other words, even though they might have already, Tua may have already said no, and they may already be 5 offers down the road. But even if it didn't start now, according to the timeline the media is wanting to set, that would have been the first offer, even if it happened 4 months ago. You know what I mean? So now that's where we're at now. We're hearing as the public the first offer, so the negotiations are starting now.
You know,
You know what I mean?
I want to make a comment about that real quick.
Like the real quick, Ollie. It's like, were they talking about the negotiations with the fan base starting now? Is that what they meant?
El Cap kind of, alluded to that in the, when he was saying about what they're talking about, how the negotiations have now kicked off when really this has been going on for a hot minute. I said this on the last show with everybody here. I said that, listen, Miami Dolphins they don't make moves when it comes to like renegotiating a contract or letting you know that a deal is done until they absolutely have to. I'm going to tell you right now, I think this deal is a lot closer than what people think. And that's why the media is now saying, oh, it's kicked off now, because they're now starting to
they know it's about to happen.
It's about to happen.
Yeah,
not only that,
the Tyreek stuff that you mentioned earlier, same exact thing. They don't let it out until they absolutely have to. Go ahead.
So this is the Dolphins are infamous for this too. The organization, especially since Stephen Ross has gotten into the building, the ideology of when the contracts start, they're always lowballing, right? Of course. When they get to where their end, like how much more they're going to give, and they're kind of at a stalemate, the Dolphins will then leak out a little bit. Oh, contracts have begun, blah, 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 all this stuff. It happens every time, and then it cools down. It cools down ice cold for about 4 months or so. And then we find ourselves at where we sit now, where, hey, things are happening, things are moving, blah, 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 blah. It's a cat and mouse game that they've played for years. And we've all known, again, like you said, Ali, a hot
very
minute.
bureaucratic, if you ask me.
It's very systematic and bureaucratic. Absolutely, they have a system to this, and it creates. It's like any negotiation, right? You gotta
waiting for the State Department to get back to you.
You gotta walk away from it sometimes. You don't want to upset anyone on both sides of the table because you don't want to have a stalemate that no one can come back from. You don't want feelings to be hurt because they're trying to stay into business together. Both organizations, Tua's camp and the Dolphins, have made it pretty clear that they want to be in business together. And I think the Dolphins, in more ways than one, yes, they've done things that are, I don't want to say unforgivable because that's obviously not the case, but they've done some stuff to show that they weren't on with Tua, but they've also counterbalanced it, at least with enough people on Tua's side in the building, to let go of Brian Flores, to bring in Mike McDaniel, to start contracts with him at the end of the 2023 season before the concussions became an issue. It was being brought up then. Now, with the concussions gone and the full year done, it has been a hot button item in the building and being talked about as such. So it's no surprise that it is now coming around because, look, I don't care who you are. I'm going to give you $150 million. Tua Tagovailoa in his camp, they know that he's had concussions, injuries, the hip. They should not put themselves in a situation where they are playing on his 5th-year option, albeit that it's $23 million, the most money he's going to get since his signing bonus, because he only made like $2 million last year and new money, and like $4 million, or excuse me, $2 million his sophomore year, and like $4 million his rookie year. They front loaded all of his contract. This is the most money he's going to get now since his signing bonus. But they don't want that to be the only big money he makes. So they need to come to the table in a reasonable manner, and I feel like they have. I feel like the $55 million a year type of money that was being thrown around and guarantees really got the conversation cold. And I feel like they go, well, let's go ahead and cap it at 55 with incentives. And now they've gone back to the negotiation table and go, well, let's now talk guarantees. And if they can pull this off where his 5th-year option plus the next 4 years are only accounting $42.5 million a year, I don't care who you are. That's like what fucking Daniel Jones is getting. Okay? That is super good, affordable money for this football team. And, say what you want.
If you're gonna do something half the fan base don't want you to do, at least set yourself up and do it financially sound.
Yeah, and say what you want about whether you believe in Tua's ability or this team's ability with Tua at the helm to get the job done. The Dolphins have made it clear any time to move off of him would have already happened. That is not the case. They can either stay pat and really find out what they've got and pay the piper financially, but that's not what we've seen from this organization and what they want to do, right? They've made it pretty clear that this is something they like and they want to continue to have happen. They haven't changed ideologies other than to cater to the quarterback. They haven't changed anything outside of support for this guy. So to me, this is the move that's probably going to happen. And whether it happens before the start of week 1, I could see this happening like between the start of preseason or something like that, right around that window where camp's over, preseason's in kick, all that stuff. It's going to come flying up on the radar and bookmark this. Somebody clip it. That's when it's going to happen. Camp's already going to roll out. They're going to want to see that toy Tua and what he's got going and how whatever work he's done with that QBR MVP club that he's doing over in California. They're going to want to see what that looks like with the weapons they've got, with the team they've got, and they're going to get their juices flowing, and they're going to say, let's strike this deal now and keep you around the next 5 years. And yes, there is going to be voidable years and stuff like that, and they can carry dead cap money and yada yada yada, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's what's going to happen. What's up, Greg?
I say it happens June 2nd, moment we get the money in, because then there's going to be a run on some of the free agents that are still available. And there might be some extra. And this deal is going to open up more money, and we have some decisions to make. We have decision to make at safety, regardless of what people think about Javon Holland, or the situation we have of moving off of him, if possible. If that's a possibility, we still have to bring in another safety. You know what I mean? That's something we only have 2 outside of McMorris. I'm just going to point that out there. That is a position of need at this point.
I think it'll happen this month.
Well, so
I'm thinking it's gonna be here sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be. Look, I'm not trying to be cynical here, but it is that Dolphins did just announce and made sort of a. God, I don't want to use the wrong words here because I really, I think it's an honorable thing to do. You know what I mean? It is, but they did call attention to the fact that it is Pacific Islanders month.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So
there is a little signaling.
The timing is right for the publicity. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be cynical. But you're an honorable thing. I'm just pointing that out.
Point color. I didn't know that.
Everybody in chat, please hit the like button. Over 100 in the room on
let's be
YouTube.
real.
Over 100 in Twitter. Come over to YouTube. Hit the like button, please. I think there's like 50 likes. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Get the likes up. Please just hit the thumbs up button. Thank you. What I was going to
real quick, Cap, you're talking about, let's be real here, the first, person of Polynesian, Hawaiian, whatever descent that, is playing in a command position, QB1, about to get paid a huge contract, even if it's not as huge as we all know what huge could be. I get all that, but it's still, seen as a big payday for somebody of his descent in a quarterback position in the NFL. That is unprecedented. And they are going to make sure everybody is aware of that. So I'm getting
be
out
the
ahead
highest
of it,
paid
making
left-handed
everybody aware
quarterback
of
of all
first.
time. Be the highest paid left-hand quarterback of all time.
Yep.
He'll be the highest paid Polynesian quarterback of all
Right.
time.
I mean, he'll be
the highest paid Dolphins quarterback of all time.
Right.
He will set a bunch of benchmarks with the contract.
Right. You've had Troy. You've had a couple other, people of Polynesian descent that have made big waves in the NFL. But this is like Doug Williams for their community, bro. Seriously. I mean, this is a huge thing, man.
So here's what I was going to say.
Whether you agree with him, being an elite quarterback or not, you got to put that, everybody's got to put that aside for a second and say, if he has in fact at least earned this, that is a huge accomplishment for his people and his community. And it should be recognized.
Fuck all that bullshit, Color. I would say this. Right now, the Dolphins are just under $3 million in cap space. They're at $2.9 million. Now, that does include the 23.1 or 23.2 million that Tua already is accounting for on his fifth-year option. So that money is already taken away from the cap number. Now, whether Dolphins could get some of that money back or whether they would choose to, that's debatable at this point. Now, we do know post-June, the Dolphins get back the Xavier Howard money, which is, what was it again, Ali? Like 21 million or something? Or it was like 18 million. That'll put the Dolphins back at around 21 million in plus money over the cap. To me, if the deal came, it would behoove them to allocate some of that money to give to Tua on this year's contract to lessen the load in the next 4 years. But they could also, you see what I'm saying, Ali? If I gave them 10 million of that 21 million and the Dolphins now have 11 million in cap space left over, Tua would get $33 million. And then now you're only on the hook for the remainder of the 213 million over the next 4 years, putting your cap space somewhere around like 38 million a year or something like that. Over the next 4 years per year, which is palatable for money. Now, granted, but this is where it gets very interesting now, because we do know the Dolphins are going to be north of 20 million post June 1st. Whatever money they want to give to they want to put back in their cap, however they want to manipulate this contract, they got to think about other players that are needing money. We're talking about Jalen Phillips, we're talking about Jaylen Waddle. Jaylen Waddle is going to, as far as all the guys that are young that are going to get paid, Jaylen Waddle is going to make a fucking big buck. So when we look at this scenario that the Dolphins are going to find themselves in, the 2026 year for the Dolphins, they have so much cap space. 2025, everybody's still under contract. They have less cap space in 2025 than they have than they started with this 2024 offseason. 2026 is a year that they can tap into, and this is before the cap goes up. Right now, they're sitting at almost $92.5 million, or excuse me, $92.5 million that they can then worry about giving to a $55 million of that. They can worry about what they can pay. And funny enough, too, this $92 million still has Bradley Chubb's $29 million and Tyreek Hill's cap hit number of $56 million on it. So, something I talked about back in late February when I was getting told a couple of things. Finally had some confirming reports where I put out that Miami Dolphins and Tyreek Hill have drafted a deal. They've got a deal ready and set to go for him that they like. Now, since then, from what I was told, Tyreek Hill had wanted to wait. Now there's been a couple of things that have happened. Now that's changed. Here's the deal, right? Tyreek Hill, because of a rework that they did in 2022, or a rework they did last year with him, they have voidable years on the contract after this year. Now, there is dead cap that they have to carry because of money up front given to Tyreek, but they would only carry $11 million, and the rest they could get back. So here's a funny thing. Tyreek Hill signed a $120 million contract with the Miami Dolphins. $72.2 million of it was in guarantees, and it was $52.55 million that was fully guaranteed. Listen to what I said there, okay? He received $72.2 million in guarantees, which 52.5 was fully guaranteed at signing. So he got $52 million up front. Dolphins on the hook for the remainder of that $20 million. After the end of this year, he'll have made $52 million. Right now, where it currently sits, he's made $32.3 million of those dollars. He's going to get, the day he walks into camp, some money and stuff like that, almost $20 million, which he's not going to let that guaranteed $20 million go. The Dolphins and Tyreek Hill, beneficial to both parties to figure out something else, because Tyreek Hill's got another $30 million that the Dolphins can get out of paying 25 of it by cutting him at the end of this year because of the contract. So Tyreek Hill, which his original contract had him with the Dolphins through 2026. Now he wouldn't even be on this team next year. He's got to ask himself, is there another team out there that's going to give me $22.5 million? Probably, right? Probably, right? There's probably plenty of teams that would give him $22 million. Maybe they'd give him $50 million for the next 2 years with 45 guaranteed. That's $22 million each of the next 2 years. What if the Dolphins would give him that anyhow? Plus a third year. If the Dolphins did something to that effect and they said, look, Tyreek, we want to keep you through the 2027 season, putting you on the same type of, essentially where they sit now was a pivot year to where at the end of this year, they could pivot. Well, now they're going to move this down 3 more years and try to keep the team and offense and respectability benchmarks for the foreseeable future. They are going to take a 3-year window, a new 3-year window. And that's what it appears to be, especially when they signed Tua to the contract, in which case they could draft a quarterback in 2027, have Tua at the deal that he's got, and pivot themselves to somewhere else in 2028, 2029, potentially, right? That's where Tyreek would be off the contract. That would extensions with Waddle and everything else like that. Waddle and Jalen Phillips, that would put them right around midway through their contract where they'd have benchmark. In a team philosophy, it's really how it's done. So what is the incentive for Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins to figure something out? Well, again, Tyreek Hill probably wants that 120 that he was going to get. The trick is this. They signed him to a 5-year deal, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, right? Well, they picked him up 2020. Anyhow, that was $120 million. He's now standing to lose 30 of that million, essentially only getting him to right around 90 million a year, which is more than his guarantees. He'll probably, if the Dolphins cut him at the end of this year, he'll have only made his minimum 72, right? If they give him 90 million, which is only $18 million more, and make it fully guaranteed, but also allow him to have the full incentives of the 120 again, reworking it, he could essentially stand to make over the next 3 years beyond the 2025, 2026, 2027, $60 million in guarantees while also getting the $31 million he has in guarantees up front, or guaranteed salary is only $20 million, so they'd make it 30. That now puts him right at making $120 million for one more extra year. Dolphins finagling him in one more year to pay him the entirety of the bill without incentives, but basically getting him for around $22 million a year over the remaining 3 years of his deal. See what I'm saying? So it'd be right around 66, 67 million in guarantees plus this year. It's essentially a 3-year rework deal, in which case brings that cap number back down. Now remember, we have 93 million in 2026. That means he would only account for 22 million of that. Well, actually, no, we would then take money and put it back. So Dolphins would have 100+ million in money that they could then. There goes the big payday that you're gonna put the money for the upfront money to Jalen Phillips, to Jaylen Waddle, to Javon Holland. You can tap in, pay all 3 of those guys, and then count for 20, 30, 40 million, the 3 of them, and still have money left over on 2026 contract. So to me, financially, and now it all depends, right? Do you want to be shopping for a new wide receiver next year? Is that the number 1 draft pick next year? Do you want to have Jaylen Waddle and then your top draft pick, which will probably put you in the 21 and higher? Is Xavier worthy? That's the ilks of that type of guy. Now, he might be great, but are you going to get the production from a number 1 wide receiver in the mid-20s versus to leaving Tyreek Hill off your football team when you can't afford it? You can't. A lot of people are like, oh, no, you got to get rid of Tyreek so you can pay Waddle. I'm telling you, extend Tyreek to then pay Waddle. And then you're finding yourself in the 2027-2028 season with Tua's contract in an entire football team with the benchmark positions on offense and at least the benchmark pass rusher and safety positions paid for. Maybe Ramsey gets reworked, but you now have your top 3 key positions in starters paid, kept: quarterback, wide receivers, pass rusher, safety, DB, we'll say, and Jalen Ramsey. You have all of them through the 2027 season. It seems the right way to do business, and this does not account what can financially expand each year with the cap going up. It's smart business. I'm telling you, this is the way in which you manipulate your cap. That's going to bend it to your will. You've got almost $100 million you haven't even tapped into for 4 players that you need to pay. Jaylen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Tua Tagovailoa, and Javon Holland. And those cap numbers now, and meanwhile, we'll be cutting Bradley Chubb before his 30 million's on there. So you can almost, with the rework of of Tyreek Hill and cutting Bradley Chubb, you're going to have $115 million+ in 2026. You can easily pay all 4 of those guys, and that doesn't include how much it's going to go up over the next 2 years. We'll just say $25 million to be on the safe side over the next 2 years. That means the cap is now $140 million in the cap. You could pay all those guys max out money and still have money left over for your draft picks, everything. You still probably be about $25 million over the cap before reworking anyone. That's paying Tyreek Hill, whatever he got, Hill, Waddle, Tua, everybody. We ain't fucking with nobody's contracts in 2026. Everyone's going to get what they're supposed to get. Everything's going to count against the cap how you're supposed to. And you ain't got to worry about nothing until maybe 2027. And if you write these contracts up over the next 2 years, like I'm thinking they are, in 2027, you could either A, rework and extend everybody to make money and try to double down, or leave it as is and then probably have the voidable years in 2028 to cut these guys for money back and completely pivot off of whatever you got going on. That's what they're going to do. 2024 through 2025 into the 2025 offseason, over the next 12 months, the Dolphins are going to rework and or extend 5, maybe 6 players. And that's going to redo our window from what was 2025 to the 2027 offseason into 2028, in which case they could still ride that out. So hit the like button, everybody. Oh, and just so everybody knows, another thing coming out is that this kind of news broke with the confirmation of the Tyreek Hill rework. It goes hand in hand with Waddle and his contract. And this is coming from CT ESPN, which is AB, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, wide receiver AB. And you could say he's a fool or whatever, how much you want to say, right? But he's been batting 1,000 for like the last year on breaking news with players and contract, and rightfully so. He's a former player. These guys are all chummy. If Tyreek Hill wants something done and it slips out through AB's mouth, people will laugh off what AB said, but at the same time, it don't make it not true. OBJ was broken by him, and look what happened. He broke it before anyone even talked about it, and now OBJ's with the Miami Dolphins. So they said, it goes, Tyreek Hill is working on a new contract with the Dolphins. Miami first wants to get Jaylen Waddle's new contract done. However, Waddle is planning to hold out if Miami doesn't meet his demands. Now, he's not holding out this year. They're talking about next year, which to me, reworking Tyreek Hill's deal helps financially figure out the extension for Waddle. Easily. The money you're saving over the next 3 years, you're taking that $31 million roughly that you're going to save by spreading out Tyreek Hill and giving it right to Waddle and making that deal happen right away. So we thought about Tyreek Hill's contract rework was for Tua. It was for Waddle. And it makes sense because if you're a management group, you break down your sections. You go, here's my wide receiver core. Here's my running back core. Here's what amount of funds per year do I want to allocate to this position? Now, I could take some from this year and next year and give it to that one, but I got to then move this over here and move this over there. So there's a lot of moving around. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you. There's definitely a lot of moving around. Everyone that says we're always in cap hell, I don't really think we're in cap hell ever, bro. There's always a way out. There's always a way to get somebody paid. And I do like your way of thinking about how the money is lining up and, like how you can extend a whole nother window in addition to pay all these guys. And then at the same time, like you were talking about, you're talking about extending, our window ends in like the 2027 or 2028. That's around the time that the extension of Tua would end as well. So it lines up with the window as well. So,
well, yeah, I'm kind of seeing the forest through the trees here. It doesn't necessarily end in 2027. It gives them another pivot in 2027 at the end of the 20, where they can either double down or move off and really be building a different football team in 2028. But I mean, just think about it, dude. The way the offense is currently constructed right now, you can't tell me that this isn't the offense that you want to have, Achane, Jonnu Smith, all these guys that are just added, Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa. the new guy. I mean, it's just that's who you're going to want to keep around 2024, 2025, 2026, no matter what. 2027, we can see what happens. And then 2028, they can really pivot, most importantly, off of the quarterback contract, which is the biggest handcuff of the situation.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
Now, we haven't even talked about like what would happen financially. Teron Armstead, who is guaranteed nothing next year. He'll still count for $22 million on the cap, no matter what you do. But you can get after post June, I think it's like $15 million back on your cap, cutting him, which I really think he's going to get cut right at the end of this year, hopefully.
You want to read that out, or do you want me to do it?
I didn't even see it. Go ahead.
So Roberto Valdez says cap hell is Jets roster, which is always riding shotgun on the Cheeks Express, full throttle into their yearly depression.
Roberto, booty clapping the Jets, well deserved. They are a poverty franchise and a poverty fan base, so they deserve all that they find themselves in. I have been seeing some people out there saying the Jets are going to win the division and stuff. And you know what? If they were ever going to do it, this is the year, because next year and year after that and beyond, listen, if the Jets don't go to the playoffs this year, let's just say they only win 9 games. Rodgers will go through that organization like a fire tornado. Saleh will lose his job, and the Jets will have a high-powered offense and no defense. And then in that final year for Rodgers, and then after that, they will have nothing. They will be bad, bro. Bad.
So I just want to point something out real quick, because you mentioned when you were talking about Tyreek and, do you really want to be drafting another wide receiver? Regardless if they extend Tyreek or not, I think we do. There are several receivers that are coming out in the next 2, maybe 3 drafts that you really don't want to pass on in the first round.
So let me rephrase, because you're right. They got to draft a wide receiver. Tyreek Hill is going to be 30, 31, 32, 33. Yeah. You can't ask him to take the snap count. You're going to have to draft somebody. What I meant to say is you don't want to draft someone in hopes to replace the production Tyreek is giving. Oh
yeah, you want to have that production and draft somebody.
You're just asking for trouble to do something.
The reason I'm bringing it up, I wasn't going to bring it up, but until we were talking about the Jets. Unfortunately, and I feel bad for Jets fans because they still are holding on to this thought that Aaron Rodgers is still the Aaron Rodgers of old. Now we're sitting here another year later, after a major Achilles injury, right? And you're expecting him to put out the same things that he did in an MVP season or the previous time he was the MVP, right? I don't see it happening. Just like with Tom Brady, year after year, he was getting older and older. Same thing with Tyreek. He even said it himself. I'm not necessarily the Tyreek of youth. I'm getting a little bit slower. You know what I mean? I may not be able to run that full 0 to 60 all the way to home run. That's why sometimes you saw him cut it short. You know what I mean? My point is that I kind of feel like the Jets are overhyped every year, and they always hold on to some, veteran old man, one step out of Medicare retirement quarterback every year. They did it with Favre. They're doing the same thing with Aaron Rodgers.
So it is the Jets' way, right? Look, I find Robert Saleh to be extremely respectable of a coach. And I also believe, at least idealistically, of how he and the Jets have drafted, not only this year, which was very important because they took a couple O linemen, but how they've drafted running backs, and they took Hall, and then they doubled down. I think they're going to go to they're going to do what he knows, more of a West Coast style power running outside zone play action, which is what Rodgers did well. And if they can establish a decent run and Rodgers can play something like he used to be, Saleh gets that defense worked out, they'll be a way better football team. Let's call it for what it is. And let's not act like Rodgers, you can't throw anything. Rodgers ain't going to look out there and go, wow, I'd never seen that before. That's just not going to happen. So can he withstand the not just the extended season, but the playoffs and stuff? That's yet to be seen. But
I think the real question mark is that new offensive line that they put together can hold them long enough before they get to Aaron Rodgers, because this is the reality. I know I just said that he might be a step off from what he was the year before that or the year before that. But at the same time, the defensive lines are getting faster, stronger, smarter. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the real question mark is that offensive line. Right? It's not like we haven't seen this before. They did all the same moves, the same thing when they brought in Brett Favre. That's why I'm like, it's like we're doing the same experiment over and over again. And unfortunately, in Jets fashion, last year we saw it. It blew up in their faces.
Badly blew up in their face,
bro. That's it. It wasn't
badly blew up in their place.
End of season injury. This was a day one. You've been on the field maybe 10 minutes injury. Not even 10 minutes. He was there maybe 6 minutes. That's what happened. Go ahead. I didn't mean to disrupt the show.
What you got, Color?
Sorry, this is the Jets profile page on Pro Football Reference. Look what I have highlighted. Offensive scheme.
West Coast. Yeah.
Drive your point home.
But you see how the Miami runs a West Coast, I would say a West Coast hybrid, right? Because of our route concepts and how we pass the ball. We lean more towards passing. Now, even though the run took a tick up, it still was more about the pass set up the run. I think the ideology has to be the run setting up the pass in a West Coast situation for the Jets, because if they try to have Rodgers be the guy to break it open for them, they're going to find themselves in a bad situation again with him injured. And we're going to see, it's not like how the Bills can do it, right? The Bills can try to get rhythm and do everything they got, but for every year now, it seems like they break glass in case of emergency and say, Josh Allen, fucking do something. Help us win this game. Do what you do. Just be a dumbass. Run the ball. Chuck it. Scramble. Whatever. They cannot in New York ask the Jets, Aaron Rodgers of 250 years old, to do that type of stuff. They have to be balanced and heavy with the running attack. They have to. And I think they plan to. So if you can put them in third and long situations and make Rodgers have to throw, and you're able to, send your D-line in obvious passing situations and tee off, maybe that can work. But if they're third and manageable and it's 3rd and 3 and you got Rodgers and the run game that got them on the first 2 downs 7 yards, they'll be a hard team to face. So,
given his age and just coming off the Achilles injury and all that, the key to Rodgers this year is just going to be get to him. Just get to him.
That's it.
Put as much pressure on him as you can. That's all, and he will. If all that age and all that matters, then he will break.
To me, the keys to beating the Bills this year is stay gap sound all across the line, accounting for the run game making them one-dimensional and forcing them to pass. Do not let Rodgers get outside the do not let Allen get outside the pocket. Do not let Allen run the ball and take away their rushing attack and force him to throw. I don't care if he's got perfect mechanics on it or not. They got a lot of new wide receivers that I don't see how he's got chemistry with right now. They've outside of Shafir, everyone else is new. And a rookie, they're really going to demand a lot from these guys. And it might win them some games because of that, but it's going to lose them games too, just because of chemistry and trying to put it into wide receivers' hands week in and week out to win them games. That's how you beat them.
I think I cannot agree with you more about what the keys are to beating Buffalo. I think you do have to cover the gaps, make sure you count for the run, account for the play action, and just make sure you don't let anybody get ahead of you. That's pretty much it. Keep everything in front of you, and it'll break down.
Yep, it's going to break down because even if you got man-to-man coverage on the outside with one of these wide receivers, I mean, I'm willing to take that bet against Curtis Samuel, and I like Curtis Samuel, but I'm willing to take that against Shafir, Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins, their rookie that I can't remember the name of because I don't care about him. I'm willing to take those one-on-one shots if that's how they're going to have to beat teams, because eventually it's going to do everything that's always happened to them. The interceptions and Josh Allen making errant throws down the field to lose as many games as he can win that way. Plus just chemistry and chemistry alone. So now as far as, and we didn't even mean to do this AFC East little rundown real quick, but let's go with New England. I don't know what to expect for New England. New coach, new quarterback, new everything. I mean, look, they're going to have growing pains, but they're also going to get one over on a couple of people too, because no one's got film on them. Right?
Yeah, they likely won't go 0-17.
No. They're not gonna put together a Panthers type season.
They'll get a good inspirational win for their new coach against a tough team.
They'll go on like a 3-game run, and they'll be just over 500 at some point in the first half of the season.
New. Nobody knows what to expect. No defensive coordinator really knows what to expect, so.
Yeah, I expect, to be honest, and this is how I would do it if I have an organization, if I was the head of an organization like that, where I was brand new, we have a new head coach, new quarterback, a lot of new things, everything, right? I personally would just want to stay competitive in my division. And I think that's all they can do. They're going to come to fight against the AFC East teams. That's what's going to happen.
And that don't mean there can't be a first time for everything, and they ball out into the best team in the entire league.
We
can only go by the numbers in these situations.
Bottom new line, head coach, I don't see having a Texans type of fucking turnaround.
Oh, no.
Right?
No.
I don't foresee that. And I also don't see them having the they definitely don't have the coaching staff in place because they got a new coach, but they don't have the players in place to be like the Colts that lost, what's his name, AR-15 early in the season and still was.
They might be able to do like a Raiders thing, as I was thinking. You know what I mean?
That's a good stay competitive in their division, squeak out wins against teams that are obviously reeling, and turn around and they won 7 games in the season and had a respectable first year for the coach and quarterback. That's probably where we'll find them. Now, if their quarterback goes down with injury, all bets are off with that take. But let's not act like the organization's a shit show, because it's just not. It's not. It's had its problems these last couple of years without Tom Brady, but exacerbating that fact that Tom Brady went and won a Super Bowl with somebody else. If Tom Brady would have retired and that was the way in which the organization went, probably wouldn't view them as bad as we did, right? Because remember, they got Mac Jones and went to the fucking playoffs, his rookie season or some shit? So it's not like they didn't have respectability. They've just kind of fallen off, and now they have so many question marks that I'm not afraid how I would be. If it was the Bills with these question marks, I would be more afraid of that, because the Bills are fucking assholes and have always been a thorn on my side. The Patriots with I almost said patriarchs. The Patriots
would have applied though.
I know it would have worked. The Patriots, I'm less fearful of them because they have had to lean on that stability for forever that I could really see the back office, along with people on the coaching staff trying to fill that power vacuum that's no longer there. And then people start doing the back office stuff that we've seen in Miami. We've seen, at our own house. I could see that ending up being something that they have to navigate through for these next 2 years while the coach and quarterback try to straighten these things out. And that's not a guarantee either. That shit falls flat on its face. Now they're spiraling. That coach is a lame duck. That quarterback gets injured his rookie season. They're in year 2, and he gets injured his second year and didn't get injured his rookie year, and the coach they are spiraling as an organization. It'll be interesting to watch what happens with the Patriots over these next few years.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Not to change the subject, have you seen some of the roasting that has been going on with Tom Brady right now?
No. Is he always having his roast?
Check this out. This one of our people have been reporting this on Twitter. So I can't think of the guy's name, but he started off, I guess, the roasting by talking about Robert Kraft and the whole massage parlor incident.
Nice.
And Tom Brady got up and told him, "Don't ever fucking say that again."
What?
Yeah. And then the next person, Edelman, his favorite receiver, went on this rant about Gronk's
how big Gronk's prank is. Yeah.
And there's another tight end that's big. I'm sorry, just some of the way it's going.
Brady pulled a Will Smith, man. He got all serious.
Yeah, they have like a video of it. We can't share it because we'll get dings. Someone's already probably posted it by now.
I mean, it is kind of a little far though.
Of Julian Edelman.
No, well, yeah, they have a video of that, but also the one that I can't think of the guy's name. I think he's the ESPN guy that does all the fantasy football stuff. I think it's him. He said something about Robert Kraft and the massage parlor incident. And Brady went up to him while people were laughing, and Rich Eisman couldn't even keep a straight face. And Brady went up to him and said, "Don't ever freaking say that again," or don't fucking say that again. Something to that effect is what he said.
Well, look, to me, I don't know why Tom Brady would do this to himself, first of all, because we know he's not that type of guy. Like, he's going to take everything fucking personally. It's why, I don't know, whatever. It's what you do when you're a super duper celebrity. You're a douchebag now. And then you go up there and get roasted to make you appear to be like everybody else.
Roasted. So it doesn't matter what it is. You're getting roasted. You know what I mean? And just have fun with it. Ugh, I thought it was funny though.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. I appreciate everybody coming out. Hit the like button if you have not. If you wanted to hear anything in particular, go back, listen to what we got into. We talked about OBJ signing. We talked about Tua Tagovailoa contract. We talked about Tyreek Hill rework contract. We delved a little bit on to how that affects this football team, paying these guys, the financial numbers, what it could look like, and guarantees with Tua, and with guarantees and manipulation of the cap with Tyreek. I went into a lot of numbers there. You might need to go back and get it. And also at the end of the episode, in the comment sections, not in the live feed, but in the video's comments, let us know what you guys think. I love when people go and do the comments in there because I'm able to respond to them a lot easier rather than the chat that's just scrolling out of control. Let us know in the comments, what do you guys think Tua will get in total contract and in guaranteed money? And also, would you guys like to see Tyreek Hill here for the next 3 years? That's putting him in a 2027 season. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of that, and we'll see you guys next time. Fins up.